The waitress delivered the doctor's drink, and he took a deflated sip.
Jazz. I was into jazz when I was younger, but these days it all sounds far too buzzy.
The Blitzats have been around for 200 years, said Tommy. The band's always changing. They've had 63 members, but the music remains outstanding.
The doctor noticed that the band's strange, euphoric melancholy had the entire audience enthralled. He also noticed that more beads of sweat were forming on Tommy's brow.
I see, said the doctor. So, why do they make you nervous? Because you're still leaking.
As the band played on, Tommy looked the doctor straight in the eye.
Because there's every chance we may not leave this gig alive.
Doctor Who, Rhythm of Destruction by Darren Jones. Read by Dan Starkey.
What do you mean, we might not leave alive?
Asked the doctor. Tommy fell silent, as if he'd already said too much to a stranger. The doctor took another sip of his mocktail.
Is that why you're being covert? You're slouching, avoiding the band's eyeline.
The Blitzats Jazz Quartet finished their blues number, and the audience answered with a roar of applause. Tommy nodded towards the stage.
Listen up,
he said. The crocodilian band leader stood up from the piano and waved the crowd to silence.
Thank you,
he said.
I have been Gilius Vega Razor.
He took more applause and then pointed to the ape drum player.
On drums, Pleep the Creep.
Pleep began to tap out a quiet rhythm across 3 different cymbals.
On double bass, Cricket.
The stick insect twirled the bass, just to prove how thin he was, then played over Pleep by strumming a different tune. Kilius moved on to the band's trumpet player.
And finally, our longest serving member and unbeatable trumpeter. It's the one and only Tiny G.
The elephantine alien blew a deafening note and then jammed along with his bandmates as the sounds they made harmonized into music. The audience began clapping in rhythm, and Kilius lumbered back to his piano.
And we are the Blitzats Jazz Quartet.
As the audience roared louder, Tommy Loco seemed to relax a little, but the doctor wasn't sure if that was from relief or disappointment.
Maybe I was wrong,
Tommy said. But on stage, instead of sitting down to play, Kilius scanned the audience. Tommy slouched further into his seat to avoid detection, but Kilius found who he was looking for. He pointed out a well-dressed man sitting in a private alcove carved high into the cavern wall.
We would like to dedicate our encore to Theobald Crane, Vice President of Caroline, the greatest nation on planet Flori 5.
The crowd's applause rose again as the Carolandic Vice President stood to acknowledge the honor. Kilius stretched his long fingers, then sat and began to play. Tommy jumped out of his seat.
Aren't you staying for the end?
Asked the doctor.
I never stay for the encore, said Tommy. I suggest you don't either.
Wait a minute.
The doctor reached out to stop him, but Tommy rushed past.
Whatever's going to happen, you can't stop it.
And the young man bounded out and was gone. The doctor considered following him, but his curiosity wouldn't allow it. There was something odd about this jazz band, and he had to stay and find out what. Tommy rushed out of the hollow and headed across the vast parking lot of spacecraft. Some were luxurious, some were huge, and others, like his own hired rover, were not so impressive, but probably belonged to the true jazz fans. In Tommy's case, it was all he could afford to get from planet to planet and continue his investigation. He was getting close now. He only needed a little more evidence, and he hoped the next Blitzats gig would provide the very thing, a living witness. It would be a massive breakthrough, just as long as she wasn't luring him to his death to protect her identity. Tommy climbed into the rover and glanced back at the hollow. That doctor guy had been strange, a bit intense.